to ABM Answered, the quickfire demand generation ABM video series. Today I'm joined by Kristina Jaramillo, President and founding partner of Personal ABM, and also the host of the ABM Done Right podcast. Did I miss anything off that, Kristina?
No, that covers it.
Nice, awesome. So to run the viewers through the rules again, Kristina, in this case, will be given 7 questions to respond to, all about account-based marketing and demand generation. The questions have come from or been adapted based on the data that we've collected at Mixed Reality Rooms, where over 1,000 marketers have gone through, and I'll pull it up on the screen somewhere here, and stated what their challenges are with ABM and demand gen at the moment. So yes, Kristina, if you're ready to rock and roll, we'll dive straight into problem 1. So problem 1 was knowing where to start. So my question to you would be, well, it's a completely open-ended question, but like when implementing an ABM program, what do the first steps look like? What goals are important to align on? And for example, if you're running a pilot, when, what timeline is a good timeline to kind of start proving out results?
Yeah, this is a question that I get a lot because people are either looking to optimize or just looking to start ABM. But what I've seen is that most teams are starting with defining ABM goals, defining their ICP, selecting those account lists, focusing on intent data and prioritization. But they're all doing it. All they're doing is really better targeting with increased efficiency, whether that's through a platform or through more targeted lists, but they're really not doing the most important part, which is improving the sales and marketing effectiveness. That is shown in reports for Momentum ITSMA, indicate most ABM programs have minimal impact on revenue KPIs. And, nowadays that's more important than ever to be focused on revenue. So I ask people to say, how can you define your goals without taking a deep dive into the business to uncover where there's red along the buyer's journey, the customer life cycle, really uncover or try to uncover as a team where their biggest go-to-market challenges and where their greatest revenue growth opportunities lie, because that's really going to define how you're going to choose an ABM program that's right for you and how you're going to move forward. Also, I ask questions like, how can we define our ICP without seeing where we're winning as a team, where we're losing? And most ICPs that I've seen don't start with revenue. They don't go deep enough to uncover the accounts that the team should be targeting, that they have either the highest growth potential now and more importantly in the future. So how can we build an ABM strategy, an ABM playbook without getting that full view of the interactions that all the teams are having, not just marketing, experiences that are being delivered across the buyer's journey again and customer life cycles? And how can we change processes, interactions, motions, experiences without seeing what's working and what's not? And I want to share a quick example. We had a business come to us, Date Freight and Analytics. They came to Personal ABM wanting to get started fast with an ABM pilot. They were using Demandbase, but their plan that they had already would only scale those bad transactional sales and marketing experiences and the customer success processes that were leading to their solution being seen as a nice to have, which is versus a must have, which is going to get people to actually buy. And this was leading to lower value deals, weak enterprise win rates, and a higher churn. And it also led to objections with their pricing structure, which was based for them on percentage of freight versus number of seats. So before teams do anything, they really need to assess the state of the business and the state of their go-to market to see how their account experiences need to change from start to close and beyond. And once you can kind of figure out where those problems lie, then you can see what needs to be changed with an account-based program. And then you can align the team around the changes that you're going to make to meet those KPI goals. So everyone has to be on the same page from the start, or it's not going to be as effective, if at all effective. And the other thing that we need to do is to increase our ABM readiness and build a strong foundation, including building our POV. A lot of people just jump to taking an ABM program, but they're not ready yet. And when it comes to ABM, we really have to come to each interaction and every experience that we're delivering with a point of view about our prospect's business, but we really can't do that if we don't have a point of view about our business and our industry. And besides missing foundational steps that change account experiences across the buyer's journey and customer life cycles, many teams are trying to scale their ABM pilot because there's a lot of pressure to scale, and they focus on the one-to-few and one-to-many programs. And there's either other ABM firms that are out there, like Strategic ABM that they've mentioned on LinkedIn, that companies should not start with a one-to-one program, which is where we believe they should start. And Davis Potter at ForgeX also posted on LinkedIn that choosing one-to-one enterprise ABM is like playing with fire. And, we believe that if you don't start with that one-to-one ABM, then you're playing with fire, as you really need to look at those individual actions and experiences that are being delivered. And we need to change that account experience and then take those lessons so that we can scale it effectively for the one-to-few and one-to-many programs that are going to feed into the one-to-one. So whatever accounts come out from those programs, then that they might be more qualified for a one-to-one. But if you're just doing focusing on one-to-few and one-to-many, you're kind of doing marketing as usual, just maybe more targeted. And ABM is really not about getting accounts to pipeline. It's about getting accounts to revenue. But because we're focusing on those other parts of ABM and not changing those account experiences, a lot of accounts are getting stuck in the pipeline or going dark after engaging with sales or marketing. We have to stop cherry picking ABM approaches and take the time to do the work first and the steps that should be done before you even do like a list selection or figure out how you're going to go to market as a team.
That was an awesome answer. Also, I love that you stick by your guns for sure. It kind of splits the audience, doesn't it? With I know that at like UiPath as well, like the leaders there, they believe that ABM is truly one-to-one. Anything that's not one-to-one isn't really ABM. You can also see the other side, and I don't want to simplify Davis's like POV as well, but obviously if you're trying to prove out a pilot and you're putting all your eggs in one, like, or few but one-to-one baskets, that you can see both sides of it. The main thing from what I took away from just that as well, what you've just said, is that there is a lot of planning involved. There is a lot of analysis.
Absolutely.
So talking about those pilots, like, it doesn't seem like, hey, we can get going with this in 2 weeks' time. How long would you anticipate like the prepping of a pilot to be, and then also like the pilot activation, as in like going live?
All right. So since we focus on the one-to-one, I'll do it from that example.
For sure.
We would it takes about 6 weeks to 3 months, depending how aligned people are and how communicative they are to get that prep work done. And then I would say to run a successful pilot, you need a minimum of 3 months, better yet even 6 months to get real results. But if you're doing maybe a one-to-few or one-to-many, you could probably do it quicker, but again, you have to increase the relevance and improve those experiences. Otherwise, again, you're doing ABM or marketing as usual, just targeted because your list is more focused.
Okay, interesting. And is maybe I'm falling into this generic marketing bracket, so feel free to shoot me down. But is there a minimum? What's the word I'm looking for? Like ticket price, for example, of a service or a product that you're selling, where you're like, right, one-to-one ABM doesn't make sense. Is like the cutoff 100,000?
Definitely. Definitely, because there's so much time, so much revenue, resources, and people, and all of that. Minimum has to be at least 6 figures to 7 figures, or maybe you're at let's say the 75K mark, and you're looking to go up market. So you want to take a pilot to get those deals to maybe over the 100K. But if you're selling a $20,000 year solution, one-to-one, not the best bet for you for ROI. But definitely other parts of ABM could work for you. But again, increasing that relevance. And to us, when we do one-to-one, our goal is to try to get the organization that we're working with from whatever their average deal size is to almost two times, because that's the way to justify the expenditure and the time and the resources and everything that goes into it.
For sure. Right. So quality answer. We do need to get going, don't we? I don't want to keep you.
I could be here all day.
Generous of your time. Problem two, and we touched upon it briefly, middle of the funnel jam. So I know a lot of enterprises are struggling with this at the moment. Probably scale ups too, but I've been speaking with a few enterprises that struggle with this. How can go-to-market teams accelerate deal velocity and kind of, unblock whatever's holding them up? And if you know what's holding them up, is there like a generic thing that's holding people up? I don't know. Question mark for you to answer potentially. But yeah, after initial contact's been made, what are some like really good, effective strategies and tips to kind of accelerate and push them through to deal closed?
All right, well, I'm going to reiterate this. Oh, sorry. I'm going to reiterate this a lot. You have to focus on that complete account experience and stop treating ABM like demand gen, because I've seen a lot of organizations think that ABM is very similar, if not synonymous with demand gen, because they're using Demandbase, Terminus, Sixth Sense, Rollworks, a plethora of ABM tech platforms. And they are having, they're struggling with accounts going dark after initial engagement, especially when sales get involved. And we've seen it happen with clients. We're seeing it happen with prospects. I'm going to share a client story to give you the kind of example that I'm seeing a lot of. This is something that's really common. We were talking with Unifor, which is a conversational AI and call center platform. They focus on digital customer and agent experience and try to get them all on the same page. They approached us because they were building a pipeline of their high value accounts. So they were building a pipeline of accounts. They were targeting financial organizations. So TD Bank, JP Morgan, Bank of America, they happened to be using Demandbase, but they were challenged with accounts getting stuck and becoming silent. So they were engaging with them with the Demandbase campaigns, but we realized they were getting stuck because there was limited alignment with the actual named accounts or the tier one accounts, which were their higher value, in their case, 500K plus deals. The content and messaging they were sharing was speaking to industries and personas versus the specific account, specific buyers, what's going on strategically in that organization, and what their gaps and impacts are. And their go-to-market team, we noticed, lacked relevance because the content and messaging that they were sharing wasn't resonating. It didn't tell the account-specific story, which is part of the reason, probably a big reason why they went dark, because it didn't resonate enough with them. There was limited buyer identification. They were not targeting the right people, which happens more than we'd care to admit. Since they were targeting financial institutions, they weren't making sure that they were engaging the right people, engaging mobilizers who can really rally the team internally around those big ideas to change, to move forward. And they were also failing to influence internal conversations that were happening, especially which ones that involve blockers that, are in love with status quo. They don't want to change. They think everything's fine. It's not a big enough problem, whatever the reason. There was also a failure to address the state of indecision due to buyers maybe being scared of the risk. And they were leaving their buyers kind of stuck between intent and action. The buyers were swirling, their heads were swirling with all the things that could go wrong, all the risks they might be taking. They're trying to outweigh the risk versus reward. And our client wasn't creating an environment and experience where they were uncomfortable with their current state, but also uncomfortable in making a decision. So if you don't have both of those going on, it makes it very hard for that organization to go forward. And because they were taking this demand gen approach to ABM, their go-to-market teams slipped into a zone where they were just kind of disseminating thought leadership and top-of-mind content. They wound up sending content that was confirmatory. They showed prospects they were smart, up-to-date, and on the latest issues and trends, and that they were a savvy and knowledgeable organization. But they didn't do the most important thing, which was to sell and market change. Why change? They didn't show those future customers, even their existing customers, that they were missing something. That content kind of spoke to customers, and reiterated what customers already knew was keeping them up at night versus something they hadn't thought about and what should be keeping them up at night. They didn't show that they were missing something as a potential client. They missed those commercial insights that are needed to change the buyer's approach, their process, their gaps, impacts of those gaps, and they missed the commercial insights that's needed to uncover specific big risks that buyers maybe didn't think of before, or there's an unseen opportunity that they needed to bring to light. They miss those commercial insights that are needed to cut through the thought leadership noise, which it's a very crowded market. And because the content was provocative, it's relevant, it tells the buyer story versus generalized industry story. So I'm going to take an example of one of the accounts they had engaged with to show how they were misaligned with their target account. This one was Bank of America, or BOA. They have a huge IT team. They've developed and integrated and expanded their own AI tools internally. They had hundreds of AI patents. Awareness and generic consideration content and messaging was not going to move them forward. It was just kind of reiterating what they already knew, but that's the content that was being delivered. So it was basically awareness content, and there was no clear point of view, like I mentioned before. There was no teaching for differentiation, no driving change with status quo. It didn't show how Bank of America, or it didn't show Bank of America that this particular client, Unifor, understood them as an organization, their current banking systems, how their current systems are creating challenges. And it didn't show them that they understand the organization as a whole, or their strategic vision, their product roadmap for their AI solution, the desire of the bank's 8 different lines of business. What they really needed was account intelligence to guide the content, guide the messaging, and those interactions. And through deep research, we realized or found that BOA is investing heavily into a self-serve platform for customers, and they also invested in virtual reality to train agents and voice of customer programs, so they have like a feedback to improve the customer experience. But we noticed that everything was siloed at BOA. They weren't bridging the gap between digital experience, live experience that customers maybe have on the phone or even in the banking center itself. And they weren't bridging the gap between the customer experience and the agent experience to make sure that the agents would have those best practices that they've learned, to reiterate them, and whatever they learned in training, so that they can help their banks, the customers that are struggling or if they're having a challenge. And there wasn't really a process in place to ensure that feedback that BOA received from customers was being acted upon agents. So there was kind of like a disconnect. It wasn't going in the full loop. And Unifor was able to create $500,000 revenue wins with Bank of America and other financial institutions that would previously had gone dark, by better aligning with their key account strategic initiatives, drive more personal relevance. And they taught for differentiation through stories, and they made that emotional connection. So they needed to change interactions, account experiences, and their content. And they also really needed to change their thoughts on what ABM, because they were doing ABM the old way, or a lot of ways that people are kind of stick to right now.
Interesting. Something that came to mind when you were going through that was that you may have read it, The Challenger Sale. I think it's by Matt Haig. But yeah, it's a really good book. I've reread it recently, and it's all to do with that. It's all very well and good being kind of relatable, or like, hey, we know this is kind of like the challenges you're having. Well, anyone can get those challenges out of like ChatGPT, or like, hey, what challenges do these industries have? But actually, like marketing the change in that transition period and forcing them to kind of look into new ways is actually really well. It gave me a new perspective as well, when it comes to sales.
It's actually funny you say that, because we get a lot of what we do. We align really closely with the Challenger Sale. We kind of stumbled into it after we had kind of been doing it our own way and refined it with the book. But it's all about teaching for differentiation, showing a new way, challenging the status quo, but doing it in a way that it opens their eyes and doesn't say like, what you're doing is completely wrong and this is why you're having such, you're failing so much or you're having poor results. It's just showing them a new way of what it could look like and why they should change.
Yeah. No, it's highly recommended. You guys should release the prequel or the book before it, the challenge.
I know, seriously.
challenge the challenge sale. Problem 3, can't go up market. So how, I guess the question is, how can go to market teams go up market and increase that deal size by 2 or 3x, like you mentioned before, like if that's the kind of the ROI that you come in and you expect an ABM program to deliver twice the account value.
Yeah, I recently spoke to a marketing leader at a channel sales tech company, and I asked them about their ABM program. It was actually the CMO, and she started rattling off the tech they were using and how they were even a case study for 6 Sense. But I dug a little deeper into their program, and I learned that they were consistently winning deals that are, less than 100K, and they were really looking to go up market, and they were consistently losing higher value deals to legacy platforms like Salesforce, because that was, something that everyone knows, more familiar with. And I noticed they were failing to teach for differentiation and show how staying with Salesforce or maybe selecting a trusted legacy player is a bigger risk to their target account strategic initiatives. And they were failing to show the gaps and impacts in their prospects' way of doing things versus, and also the gaps and impacts in their competitors. And this was something that another organization, DigiSuite, which is a digital asset management tech firm, basically they any kind of content you have as an organization, they kind of collect it and organize it so that the whole organization can use it and it's all consistent across the brand, to simplify that. So they came to us wanting a stronger pipeline growth with their existing ABM program. Their goal was to fuel a 4x revenue growth over a 4-year period. But after reviewing the business, we saw that the real issue didn't lie with the pipeline that they had. They were faced with heavy discounting pressures from competitors, which in their case was Binder. They also continually, lost enterprise deals to legacy platforms like Sitecore and Adobe. And the go-to-market team was really focused on marketing departmental pain points, just like their competitors. So they were selling into marketing versus trying to drive engagement across the whole organization. They failed as well to teach for differentiation and show their target accounts how Binder, legacy platforms, other competitors, they really don't integrate as well as they do into the enterprise organization, even though there was reports from Forrester and Gartner that showed that digital asset management systems are underutilized and not leveraged outside of marketing. They didn't show gaps and impacts across marketing, advertising, PR, e-commerce, sales. There was about a dozen departments that they impacted that they were not mentioning. So that makes it more of a whole organization tool versus just selling into one division. So by changing the interactions, changing those communications and the account experience, where DigiSuite becomes embedded within the organization, they saw a 55% increase in new logo ARR, 114% growth in expansion ARR, and a 200% improvement in enterprise win rates and 2x increase in win rates. So it's all about changing how you are positioning yourself, especially when it comes to organizations that are competing with these larger organizations that are, more well known, have been around for a while, are synonymous with whatever you're selling. You have to make sure that you stand out, and that's how this organization was able to kind of turn their revenue goals around.
So you're a big believer in battle cards then, like displaying those on websites?
Yes, but I also am more of a big believer in some kind of, I guess you could call it a battle card, but for an organization. So what's really important to a target named organization? Because just because they're in the same industry as, dozens of others that you're targeting, they most likely do not have the same strategic initiatives. They most likely don't have the same goals. What is their board saying? What is their C-suite saying? Do they have a particular focus to increase new logos, or are they more focused on retaining customers? Like, what are important to them as an organization beyond their industry, their revenue, and the size of their team? Like, what matters to them as an organization? So you treat them as individuals, just like you would treat an individual in a buying committee. They're just not like a financial institution or a SaaS organization. They are like an experience and account of one.
I feel like there could be a new tool made for that. It's like some tech tool which, it's like personal battle cards on a one-to-one basis rather than, because you are right, I've never really thought about it. There's always like, hey, we're better than these competitors because we do XXX. Well, that's not speaking to me as a company, is it? That's speaking to probably a vertical or the industry as a whole. And there probably is something quite special about having hey, Vodafone, we are better than XYZ competitor because we speak to your needs in this way,
Yeah.
whereas they won't. I like that a lot. Problem four, enter. Yeah, problem four, enterprise account churn. So, I mean, this is enough to kill a lot of scale ups, that's for sure. And it's a big hit for enterprises too. How can go-to-market teams protect and expand key enterprise accounts, and that I guess can provide the greatest revenue growth over the long term?
I'm going to go back to this again, and you're probably going to get sick of hearing it, but you have to think about the complete account experience. The experiencing that marketing delivers is going to impact the experience that sales can deliver, which impacts the experience that customer success teams can deliver, and it's going to impact that overall account experience and customer experience. So if you get it right from the start and you continuously have the same type of experience across the board, it's going to be a better fit for the customer, and hopefully longer that they stay with you. And this is why I say that you don't necessarily have a marketing problem, maybe you don't have a sales problem or a customer success problem. It's more of a go-to market problem. When it comes to retention and expansion, you really need to align with those key stakeholders to address a couple of questions that are really crucial. Why stay with you if you are versus going to a competitor? Why evolve and why expand? And it has to go beyond we're cheaper, we're more well-known, any of those type of generic things. It has to be concrete examples. And most customer success teams that I've seen focus on adoption, utilization, satisfaction, and problem resolution, and they lose track, of the metrics and the goals that decision makers actually care about. So it's great that they are using your solution, but you want to show them where they could use it better or how they could use it better to grow down the line, so that you see that you're really aligned with them. You don't want to give them the generic, we fixed XYZ and that's it. If teams are not showing existing counts how staying and potentially buying from you even more and growing with you is the safest move, then you become very vulnerable, and your competitors just you become vulnerable to losing to competitors and any kind of disruptive messages that they might be sharing. So you have to really make sure that you stay aligned. Like I think a lot of organizations lose track. Once that customer is a customer, they'll just think customer success will manage them as like a project or account manager. But it's more of, why is this such a good value for you? Why are you going to stay with us? Why should you grow with us versus leaving?
Mm-hmm. That's interesting. So, separate project at Mixed Reality Rooms, we're working on with customer success teams or something else, and there's from what we understand, a big opportunity around data visualization within customer success teams, because they're providing constant ROI feedback and things. One, it's just super inefficient, but two, even if you do send around you're limited to what you can do at the moment. As in, if I send you an email saying, hey, your team have processed this many documents this week, so therefore you've saved this much money because you've automated it, or something like that, it doesn't really paint the picture of the scale and the impact that it's having on the business. Whereas I feel like data visualization is going to be such a big thing in the next 5-10 years, where, beyond dashboards, where it's hey, this is where we're at now. Here's who's slacking using the tool. Here's who's doing really well using the tool. They're your champions to double down on, find out what they're doing well, why they're doing it.
Mm-hmm.
And here is if you can align all of these customer champions, all the people that are using our tool really well, who are saving or making you the most money by using our tool. Here's where your whole organization could be if you roll out these best practices. Anyway, more on that maybe another time. But no, it's a very, very good point. That was a complete I might just edit that out, to be honest. That was just my tangent. I'm not the expert here. You are. So, problem 5: go-to-market team integration. So, how should, in your opinion, Kristina, go-to-market teams be working together and integrating? And what is the account-based kind of enablement that's needed to do this?
All right. Well, I saw the other day a description from Meg O'Leary on LinkedIn. She's head of growth at Playbuilt. She described integrating go-to-market like this, and I think it summarizes it very well. Picture a world where sales, marketing, and customer success and RevOps teams aren't just aligned, but are moving in unison like a well-oiled machine. And this is the core of an integrated go-to-market. It really goes beyond collaboration. It goes beyond, okay, we agree on ICP, account list, activities. We're all on board with that. It's really about understanding each phase of your customer's journey and ensuring each impact, each touch point, each interaction actually drives impact. Excuse me. It's not about campaigns. It's about each touch point. So each time your go-to-market teams has a chance to create a memorable moment with prospects or customers, and it's really about the interactions and how those human buyers in the accounts that you want to win, protect, or even expand, depending on your focus. How do they feel after engaging with sales? How do they feel after engaging with marketing and customer success teams? We need to change the thinking from campaign orientation to thinking about focusing on the right accounts and the customers. And that's how we're going to really orient go-to-market to those customers to maximize our revenue, whether that's ARR, GRR, or NRR. This really requires that something that we call account-based enablement. So it's where teams can get specific content, specific messaging, insights for those struggling moments at the center of every deal, that we make sure that we listen to those struggling moments, we understand them, we cater them, reframe like you would in a challenger sale, and how we're going to solve those problems. We really want to enable those sellers and marketers and customer teams to flow in a flow of their work for specific accounts where they can respond with speed and precision no matter any challenges or obstacles that come their way. We need to influence that selling conversation, the account retention conversation, account expansion conversation, anything that's happening internally behind closed doors. We want to see how we can influence that. We need to enable sales and the customer success teams to have social, email, live conversations with buyers and influencers in organizations they don't have relationships with yet. And these teams need account-based insights and personal content that earns sales, that earns customer success teams the right to, a conversation with the C-suite and VP. They're really hard to engage. And if you don't have relevant content or relevant messaging for them, they're not going to engage. They're not going to get involved in buying. They won't get involved in renewal or even expansion. Mm-hmm. Customer success teams and sales teams also need to know what content to use, when to use it, how to deliver the right message across the organization. And it's not about automated sequences in SalesLoft or Outreach or whatever tool you're using. It's really about how to deliver high-touch, personal, one-to-one messages and content that shows that you're aligned with their business vision, that you understand their specific gaps, their specific challenges, and how those gaps and challenges are impacting the decision, the key decision makers on the team that you're trying to reach, as well as the department or the company as a whole.
That great answer. It's just my brain's like pinged off in 1,000 different directions, and I don't want to I want to save on the follow-on questions, but I'm going to go here. It all comes back down to the research in the beginning, and like you need a strong foundation before you can do anything really. It made me think, as you were saying, that high touch points. Do you mean high touches in like the amount of frequency of touch points? And also, if so, how often do you like refresh? Or does it differ from client to client? How often are you researching new information about accounts? Or is it like an ongoing thing throughout the process?
Well, it also depends on the kind of account. So let's say a higher value account obviously is going to get deeper dive and more research and more insights versus a smaller account. But that's something that probably should be refreshed. I'd say every 6 to 12 months, just because, new strategic initiatives are happening, new things in the market are happening. So the organization might be on a path to achieve a specific goal for the next 18 months, 2 years, but then something major happens in their industry and they change it. So you're not aligning as much. And when I say touch point, I mean like any email you send them, any LinkedIn message you send them, any actual phone or meeting conversation you have. So you want to make sure that you're delivering relevant content every single time, because all it takes is that one interaction that says to them as a buyer or as a customer, well, they don't really understand what I'm all about. and they're just reaching out to reach out, there has to be like a reason behind it. You're not just like, I'm just checking in, or I want to see that you're using this. Do you have any problems? No.
Yeah.
We see that customers in your specific industry and have similar challenges on X, and this is what they're doing to fix it. If you're not giving me information that I need to know, you're kind of just filling my inbox, and I don't need any more of that.
Yeah, I hate those word vomit. I try and avoid it. Like, obviously, I do
it happens. You don't realize you're doing it sometimes.
Yeah, like someone once told me, or like a mentor of mine, like every email has to have value, like some value.
Yeah, otherwise, why are you sending it?
Yeah.
Like, do not send right away. Reread it and say, if I read this on the other end, what I say, oh, there's added value here. This is something I'm interested in. If not, delete or rework.
For sure. I think a lot of salespeople...
It's hard to be critical of yourself sometimes.
The problem 6, so we're nearly there. Tracking and reporting ROI. So how can we improve KPI effectiveness would be my question.
Okay. I think as an organization, we need to take a top-down go-to-market approach, especially important when it comes to ABM, because for me, any account-based approaches really need to align with business objectives and fix the red in the business. So the top-level business performance metrics that we like to influence and make sure are changing in some way for the better: win rates, deal size, ARR, GRR, and NRR. It really sets context for what we should be reviewing in the business to see what needs to change. Changes need to be made to go to market, and even with ABM and which approach we're going to take. And it breaks down department silos, and it can allow teams to not only align, which is a great start, but to integrate and actually work together on fixing those issues and those business challenges to impact that top level business performance metric. And it leads to more strategic and transformational changes that need to happen for ABM to work. So it's one thing to say we're aligned, we all agree on this, but it's another thing to actually say marketing helped get this particular account further along the journey, and sales is going to just pick up the baton and continue. They're not just going to, they're going to help them along. They're not just going to, there's a specific endpoint for marketing, and then when sales picks up, and then when customer success, it's always a solid flow. And the KPIs that we track and optimize help us optimize our go-to-market motions to focus how we can improve the business performance metrics. So, for example, if we're not winning larger deal sizes, then we're not going to track the team's engagement across the organization, or then we're going to track, and see where we're getting VPs and above engagement, or teams are maybe being told to see someone a few levels down. So if you're trying to engage a VP and he throws you down to his director or manager, it's because you're not resonating with him. Also, are we multi-threading across the organization? So it's great to have one champion or one person engaged, but everybody knows we need at least 8 to 10, maybe a dozen people on board. So we need to make sure that we're interacting with them. We're getting engagement with them. We actually are. That multi-threading is really key.
Sometimes when I'm doing this and I'm speaking to people that know an awful lot about ABM, probably more than me, most definitely more than me, I get it's a gentle reminder of how intense ABM is and how many moving pieces there are to the puzzle and how much work it is. But at the same time, if you're not afraid to put in the work, you're the one that's going to reap the biggest, juiciest fruit, I guess, at the end. I'm really coming out with some random tangents today, aren't I? Great answer. Final question. We made it. The final question, Kristina, came in from Amelia Taylor, who is the strategic growth partner at CapChase, and also founder of the Revenue Table, which is awesome. She asked if you could take any one of Chris Walker's strategies, whether it's attribution or conversions, and challenge it, what one would it be? And I know she encouraged, to be bold with the response.
Oh, I love challenging other people, and I love to be challenged. It's the only way we grow. So I challenge Chris Walker. I'm a big fan of him, but I challenge him to think that ABM and ABX challenges thinking on ABM and ABX as an account tiering and a prioritization strategy. and that it's not a go-to-market motion, because I've seen that he said that. I'd argue that while better targeting and prioritization is key of an ABM program, ABM is a lot more than that. To me, ABM is a new way of thinking about how you do business as an organization, a new way of thinking about how you're going to talk to your customers, a new way of thinking about how you engage prospects, how you're going to express your value and your value proposition. It's really a new way of thinking how your sales, marketing, customer success, rev ops teams, how you're going to work together and how you're going to move in unison, like I mentioned before, as a well-oiled machine. ABM is really about how each phase of your customer's journey is, aligned, and that ensure that each touch point, digital, social, email, live interactions, they all drive impact. And ABM is really a new way of thinking how you're going to win, protect, and expand your best accounts that can provide the greatest short-term and long-term revenue growth. It's this new thinking that goes beyond tiering and prioritization that should make ABM a go-to market motion. In fact, we've been talking a lot about an account-based go-to market as opposed to ABM in general. I think we're going to shift over to that because I think a lot of people get confused. There's marketing in the word, so obviously it's just a marketing thing when it really is an organization go-to market initiative.
Wow. I feel like he should be here to defend himself, or we should have like
No, he has great. He's on another side. Like we're aligned, but like almost like with the demand organization that he kind of runs for his clients and customers, we take the next step and say, okay, are those high value ones that are becoming engaged? Do they need more of that one-to-one revenue approach? And again, like I said, my approach is for higher value deals, so it's not going to be for everyone. Whereas what Chris Walker does and talks about, I think, is more of a overview of what all different marketers can do.
Interesting. Okay, no, that's totally fair enough. I feel like I've gone off on so many tangents today. I'm going to keep continuing. We should have like some presidential marketing debate, or another series I was thinking about starting for ABM Answered was like Muay Thai or martial arts with marketers, and like you just get in the ring and you just have it out. And why interviewing each other? Or maybe it would be better if it was like marketing versus sales. But yeah.
Oh man.
Kristina, I think sales would win, to be honest. Those
Probably.
Yeah. Anyway, Kristina, thank you so much. We're at the end, but I have one final. Well, it's more of a request or an ask. Do you have a question for our next guest?
Yeah, I would like to see if they've done they've done their homework. And I'm sure you're going to make this sound better than I'm going to say it right now. But if they've done their homework on why they're even taking an account-based approach, and does it make sense for their organization, and which part of ABM works for them, the one-to-one, one-to-few, one-to-many. I would challenge them to see if they've done their homework and research to see if they're even ready, or organizations are ready that they work with.
Okay, so understanding kind of like question one, like kind of what are the processes that they go through before deploying their ABM?
Yeah, do they go straight to it or not? Because that would define the whole success, I would think.
Okay, awesome. I'll get it in there in the next recording. But thank you so much, Kristina, and we'll chat soon.
All right, sounds great. Thanks so much for your time.